I'm tired today. I'm sorry, students. Boss has me working overtime. Overtime, that means that I'm working more than 40 hours in a week, typically. So overtime, yeah, it makes you tired, makes you need to drink extra fluids to stay hydrated. But the good thing about overtime, if there is a good thing, is that you get paid more. When you're working an hourly job and you are asked to work more than 40 hours a week, typically the employer will offer you a bonus for working so hard and so many hours. That's called overtime pay. Now, overtime pay, yes, you're working harder, longer hours, away from your family, but you are making more money. How much more money? Let's take a look down here. Let's say that we're making $10 per hour, and we are working 40 hours this week. And then boss says, hey, I need you for an extra 10 hours. So overtime, you're going to work overtime at time and a half after 40 hours. And boss said, well, we need to go an extra 10 hours. So instead of working 40 hours in the week, you're going to work 50 hours in the week. Now that phrase that's on the board, time and a half, what does that mean? That means that you get your typical hourly wage and an additional half. So let's think about $10 an hour. $10 an hour is how much you get paid. Now think about half of that. Half of 10 is 5. So you get $10 per hour plus that additional $5 bonus to give you $15 per hour when you're working time and a half overtime. Let's put this on a table and let's graph it to see what that looks like and what your paycheck will look like. So here I have a table, hours worked, after 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours, and 50 hours. And then the money on your paycheck. So after 10 hours of work at $10 an hour, you'll make $100. After 20 hours of work at $10 an hour, you just multiply those together, you'll get $200. And you're starting to see the pattern here. This is a linear function that is going up by a consistent 100. So the next one will be 300, or 30 times 10. 40 times 10, 400. Now here's where it starts to get interesting, right? Because you've worked your full 40 hours, you're like, all right, boss, thanks for the $400 on the paycheck. I'm gonna go home, enjoy some time on the couch. I'm a little tired. But somebody's called in sick and you have to take over that last 10-hour shift on a Saturday. So boss says, well, you do need to work this, but I'm gonna give you time and a half. At this point, you might consider yourself super lucky, because time and a half means you're making 50% more money. So this last 10 hours, right, from 40 to 50 is an additional 10 hours. You're not going to make an extra $100. You're going to make an extra $150. And here's why. You're working an extra 10-hour shift, and we're going to multiply that by time and a half, or $10 plus the half, which is $5, or $15 bonus. 10 times 15 is 150. And 150 added on to our last data point of 400 gives us $550. So you see, we actually got paid an extra $50 bonus for working overtime. So it's not such a bad thing. Yes, you'll be tired. Yes, you'll need to hydrate. But you do get paid more. Let's graph this. So from 0 to 10, right? Well, first, if we don't work at all, if we work 0 hours, we'll make $0. So we can actually plot that. It's an extra bonus data point. 10 hours will give us $100, right? All I'm doing is I'm looking back at my table. So I have 10 hours with $100. I have hours on my x-axis, and I have the paycheck dollars on my y-axis. 20 and 200. 30 and 300, 40 and 400, but here's the interesting part. I'm going to graph this in a different color. When I graph all these, you'll notice that I have a nice smooth line, right? Consistent linear function. Rise over run is identical. I go up 100, I go over 10, I go up 100, I go over 10. So my slope is 100 over 10. But what's really interesting is that when I get to 50, it's not going to be 500, it's going to be 550 because I got that bonus. So let me go ahead and graph this one. Dry eraser cap sounded great. All right, nice smooth line, but look what happens. It was nice and even with the same slope, but then it's a steeper slope when we get overtime pay because we worked time and a half on that Saturday. So instead of getting $10 an hour, we got a 50% bonus, which is what time and a half means. Now, what if you had a different job and the overtime rules were a little different? What if it was double time instead of time and a half? Let's write that down on the board. Some employers offer what's called double time overtime pay. So you could get time and a half, and that's wonderful. But if you get double time, that means you don't just get 1 times your hourly rate, you get 2 times your salary rate. So $10 an hour turns into $20 an hour if you're working double time. So you'll have to ask what the overtime benefits are at your place of employment, because if you get time and a half on overtime, that's wonderful if you work over 40 hours. But if you get double time, you actually get even more. You get twice your hourly rate. So let's see how that changes. So here we went from 40 to 50, which is 10 extra hours, but we went from 400 to 550 under time and a half. At double time, we would have had $20 times that extra 10 hours of overtime we worked, and that would have given us $200 extra. So 400 plus that additional 10 hours worked at $20 gives us $200, and $400 is $600. So let me draw that last data point in the event that you worked at a place that had even better overtime pay. So at 50 hours, we would be at 600 up here. You see the line is even steeper. It's steeper because instead of making $15 of overtime pay per hour, you're making $20 extra per hour. So overtime, yes. Working long hours is tough. But if it's over 40 hours a week, you can get overtime pay, and that could mean time and a half, or in some places, double time. Make sure to ask that question. Thank you very much, and have a great day.